welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at how Ronin Graphics, their design company, how they find inspiration, and get this, in pretty unexpected places, expert speaker. Okay? They actually compare their process, their creative process, to Daenerys Targaryen raising dragons in Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? So that's what we're diving into today.
I am so ready for this. This is going to be good.
There are resident creative process gurus, so help us connect the dots here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a case study in how, two things that seem like they have nothing to do with each other can actually inform each other in a really cool way.
Yeah, and it's not just like they're using dragons as a cute mascot.
Right.
They actually call themselves dragon raisers. So I'm really curious, what is that deeper connection?
So they've taken this really fantastical image, right? And they've tied it to the very real stages of how an idea goes from, just a little spark to a fully fledged, thing.
Right.
So like those initial sparks of inspiration, those aha moments. Ronin Graphics, they see those as dragon eggs.
Okay.
Full of potential, but needing the right kind of environment and care to grow.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this dragon egg phase a little bit.
Okay.
Do they give specific examples of how this actually works in their design process?
They do. They talk about a campaign that they did for a new coffee brand.
Okay.
And they said in the beginning, it was just a very basic idea, like a sketch on a napkin.
Yeah.
And that was their quote-unquote dragon egg.
Mm.
But rather than just rushing to execute on that idea, they took the time to really understand the world of coffee.
So they didn't just go straight into designing logos and slogans and stuff?
No, not at all.
Okay.
They knew that to make this campaign really sing, they needed to feed the flames of their creativity.
Okay.
So they immersed themselves in the coffee culture. They were visiting farms, talking to growers. They even took a coffee tasting course.
Wow. That's dedication. Most design firms, I don't think, would go to those lengths for a, quote-unquote simple coffee campaign, but...
Right, and that's what I think is so cool about these guys. By taking that time to really understand their subject, they were able to gather all of these little details and insights that they could then use to kind of fuel their creative process.
So this feeding the flames idea, it's not just about brainstorming in a room, it's about actively seeking out inspiration and knowledge that will then help those initial dragon egg ideas kind of evolve into something, really unique.
Exactly, and it's in this stage that they really start to define what makes this particular dragon, this campaign, special.
Yeah.
What are its strengths? What are its quirks? What makes it stand out from all the other dragons or coffee brands in the world?
And I'm guessing this is also where that expert team at Ronin Graphics comes in, right? They're like the kind of dragon wranglers, making sure things don't get out of control.
Right. Like, whoa, dragon, you're getting a little too big for your britches here.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're the ones with the experience to help shape and mold that raw creative energy into something that is cohesive and effective. They know when to let the dragon kind of soar and when it needs a little guidance.
Speaking of guidance, they talk about growing pains too.
Yes.
I imagine even dragon eggs can be a handful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting because they realized that in their quest to create this amazing multi-sensory coffee experience, they were at risk of overwhelming their audience.
Oh, okay.
Too much information, too many bells and whistles. It was like a dragon outgrowing its cage.
Oh, I can see how that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they rein in their dragon without, totally stifling its fire? Because that sounds like such a delicate balancing act.
It was a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
They had to figure out how to communicate, all the complexity and the richness of this coffee without it being overwhelming for people, which I think is something a lot of creatives struggle with, right?
Totally.
When you're really passionate, you have all these ideas, and knowing what to edit, what to cut, that's huge.
That's such a good point, and it's so tempting to just cram everything in there, especially when you're excited about something.
Yeah.
So how did they find that balance? What did they actually do to kind of tame their coffee-fueled dragon?
Well, this is where their experience as dragon wranglers, designers, really comes in, right?
Yeah.
They took a step back and tried to look at the campaign through the eyes of their audience.
Okay.
They asked themselves, what is the core message here?
Mm-hmm.
What are we trying to get across?
Right.
What are the most essential elements of this coffee experience?
So it's about kind of getting to the heart of it,
Yeah.
cutting away all the excess.
Exactly. They streamlined the design. They focused on just a few key visuals that really got across the coffee's journey from, bean to cup.
Okay.
They kept some of the interactive elements, but they made sure that those elements really enhanced the story rather than distracting from it.
Okay, so they got their dragon under control.
They did.
But did it still have that initial spark? Did it still have that creative fire?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
And I think in this case, the answer is a resounding yes.
Okay.
The campaign was still visually striking. It was still engaging, innovative, but it was also much more focused and effective.
Okay.
So it's like they managed to distill their dragon fire into this really powerful beam.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And the results really speak for themselves.
Okay, all right, now I'm on the edge of my seat.
Alex chuckles.
Give us the finale.
Okay.
Did this dragon soar?
It soared. This campaign was a smash hit.
Okay.
Sales skyrocketed for the coffee brand, and more importantly, people were talking about coffee in a whole new way.
Wow.
Ronin Graphics succeeded in not just selling a product, but creating this whole, buzz and experience.
Yes. This is why I love doing these deep dives, because we took this crash course in creative strategy, but by way of Daenerys Targaryen.
Right.
I know. But jokes aside, I mean, there's some real wisdom here, right?
Oh, for sure.
Especially for our listeners.
Yeah, and you know what I think is so cool about this? They're not just using this dragon thing as a marketing ploy.
Right.
It's baked into their company culture.
Oh, wow.
They really encourage their team to be, quote-unquote, dragon raisers.
I love that.
To embrace those sparks and really nurture them.
So how can our listener who, maybe isn't a designer or whatever, how can they apply this dragon-raising approach to their own work?
It's about taking that initial spark, that dragon egg. It could be a business idea, a solution to a problem at work, a personal goal, and recognizing its potential.
Yeah, and not dismissing it, right?
Exactly. Don't dismiss those early ideas.
Right.
Write them down, let them simmer.
So many of us, we're guilty of squashing our own little dragon eggs before they've even had a chance, right?
Yes, and that's where the whole feeding the flames stage comes in.
Okay.
Just like Ronin Graphics immerse themselves in coffee, you need to surround yourself with information, with perspectives, with experiences that relate to your dragon egg, your goal, whatever it is.
So we're talking about actively seeking out knowledge, having those conversations.
Really immersing ourselves in the world of our dragon egg.
Yes. Give it that fuel it needs to grow.
Okay, and just like any good dragon parent, I'm guessing you got to be prepared for the growing pains too.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
There will be challenges, there will be setbacks, there might even be a few singed eyebrows along the way, but...
I imagine there's a bit of imposter syndrome that creeps in too, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're is this really dragon material?
Totally. Self-doubt is part of the creative process, right?
Yeah.
But what's cool is that Ronin Graphics, they don't shy away from those moments.
Okay.
They see those as opportunities to refine their approach.
Okay.
Remember that whole dragon outgrowing its cage thing?
Yeah.
That wasn't a failure.
Right.
That was a sign to kind of adjust their course. Right, so it's not about giving up. It's about finding ways to make your dragon even stronger.
Exactly. It might mean simplifying your message, getting some feedback, going back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
The important thing is to keep learning, keep iterating, and never lose sight of that initial spark, that thing that got you excited in the first place.
It's about nurturing your dragon, but also knowing when to let it spread its wings and fly.
Yes, I love that. And that, I think, is the ultimate lesson here.
Okay.
Just like Daenerys learned to trust in her dragons, we need to learn to trust in our ideas.
That image of her soaring through the sky on Drogon's back, it really is it's such a powerful image for what's possible when we really, miss our creativity.
It reminds us that the journey is just as important as the destination. There will be moments of doubt. There will be setbacks. There will probably be some fire. But if you nurture your ideas with care and courage and a little dragon taming expertise, you might just find yourself soaring to heights you never even thought possible.
I love that. This has been such an inspiring deep dive.
Yes.
For our listener who's now fired up, ready to embrace their inner dragon raiser, what's the one thing you want them to take away from our conversation today?
I would say remember that every great idea, every innovative solution, every world-changing invention started with a single spark.
Yeah.
So pay attention to those sparks, even the ones that seem a little unconventional. Nurture them, challenge them, and don't be afraid to let them evolve into something truly extraordinary.
You might just have a dragon on your hands.
You might.
Expert speaker, this was amazing as always.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this fiery deep dive, and we'll see you next time.